Welcome to Tailslaters. Today we're going to talk about Blackout. What I like about Blackout is you can do custom effects. There's already a lot of information out there on Blackout. Most of them, if not all of them, done by the CEO himself, Jeff Brink. And so I am not going to reinvent the wheel. So what I'm going to do is talk about times when I've been on set and I had an effect in mind, or the DP or the director said, hey, can we possibly do this? And I had to pause and be like, I think so. Usually set is not the place to troubleshoot something like that. It's usually not the place to like, hey, give me 30 minutes, let me go see if I can figure this out. And I've seen other chases like this online doing custom effects in Blackout where I can get red and blue just like this, but it would be like red, red, blue, blue. The colors would chase around, so it wouldn't be like red, blue, red, blue. So keeping one half on its own, the other half on its own. Now we're going to talk about grouping. There's a number of ways to group, and this is the key here. So if I click on 1.01, now the through, THRU, on the little keyboard down here is available through 6. I've now highlighted 1 through 6. Now let's go into offset. Again, there's a couple different ways one could do this. Go into offset. It shows you on the left 1.01 through 1.06, and it's got commas in between. So that's what I've selected. Now within offset, let's say how many groups. So let's say number of groups, and let's say 1. So you can see on the timeline, in this little display window, group 1, offset, number of groups 1, say enter, click enter, get a little green check mark. So now let's go ahead and record a group. So for this group, let's call it, since we'll make this side red, let's say. So we'll call this red half. And, oops, if I can spell, let's save it. Now it's clear, just to make sure we're clear. So let's go ahead and make the second group now. So I'm just going to do number 7 through number 12. Going to offset first, so you can see 1.07 through 1.12, and again, does not have the parentheses yet. Number of groups, we're going to say 1. Hit enter, you get the little green check mark. Wonderful. Let's just record that into a group. We're going to call that blue half, just for the purpose of our demonstration. Done. Save it. It's clear. Select blue half. Select red half. See, everything's working as expected. And then just a note, as you do blue half and go back into offset, you can now see that there is a parentheses around the 1.07 to 1.12, and that's your clue that we are now not just affecting individual pixels when we do effects on them. We are controlling them. We're putting them together, making them into a group. Let's go ahead and start with the red half. So I'm just going to go back, clear. So let's choose the red half. Let's record an effect. I'm going to call this, just call it red, capital red, just for fun. Again, probably not the best name, especially if you're going to make adjustments along the way, or if you want to make it more universal for other things you might want to do later. And we'll get into that real quick. So let's go ahead and say done, save it. Let's just go into effects, and just to prove that it is affecting just the half, I'm gonna hit play, and we already have it red. Now I already have it set to red. This is something I did off camera. But here's an important note. There's a couple different ways to control the color. And one is hard-coded, and the other one is a little bit more, I wouldn't call it like a smart setting, but it's something that's more adjust on the fly ready. Both will work. It really just depends what you need, what you want. And anyone who's used Blackout before is familiar with having the fixtures set to the background, meaning what on the pillbox screen, it's drawing its information from there. And if you go into the level here, you can choose background tracked value or relative value. So I'm going to leave it as background, and going into the light settings, color wheel, intensity. So it is using the background color, base CCT. It is using the base CCT, and on that first one, it is default set to 100. So it's not using the background. It's just set to 100. If you go to the second line, you can see it is using the background value for the intensity. So this is something I like to do just because it makes it adjustable on the fly, and we'll get into that in a second. For right now, it is set to red. And like I said, I didn't do that on camera, but just real quick, again, probably going over things that everyone already knows, my specialty. But let's clear that. Let's go into the main fixture, which includes all the cells together. Go into fixture control. I left the base CCT at 3213, which is the default. I accidentally just changed it. That was an accident. All right, we'll change it back to a red. I don't remember what red we had. Let's say that. Hue, I have 360, 360 is a primary red. Saturation, I had set to 100%. So now, as you could see, what I accidentally did is you are now controlling the color live. So if you set up this effect and later on you're like, no, I don't want red. I don't want red and blue. I want red and green, or green and, green and white. It's like, maybe it's the police in Leprechaun Land or whatever. It's adjustable. So let's go back into the effects. Double click. So we have our red, and it's kind of doing like it's like dimming up, dimming down. This the default setting. Anyone who's used effects in Blackout before, you're very familiar with the screen. It's got the time, it's got the dwell. So one thing I want to do, first of all, I want to set the time to 0. Save it. Save it. So that's I guess the fade up, fade down time. So I'm just setting it to 0, so it's more of a snap, just like a cop car. The dwell, I have it 1. Let's just change it to something a little quicker. Let's just change it to 0.25 or something. And on both, we'll make it equal, so it's really is on, off, on, off, on, off. So that's a lot faster. So now one thing I do want to change right while we're doing, and this gets into like I said, the ability to adjust things on the fly. I'm going to set the level, the first one, to 0. I'm going to save it. And I'm going to go ahead and back out to, so you can see now I set to 0. There's a background is set to 0. The level is set to 0. Let's go ahead, back out to the main, and let's go ahead under fixture control. Let's just bring up the intensity. Go to intensity, bring it up. So that is affecting the entire bar. So it is bringing up the other side as well. But now it allows me to control live. Like let's say the DP says, hey, can we bring that down 25%? I can do it live versus having to go into the effect, go into the parameter, make a change, get out, going back. All of that is possible. It really just depends on what you want to do. So I reversed, instead of having the default set to 0, I reversed those two. So now I hard coded 0. Let's go back to effects so you can see what I'm talking about while I'm talking about it. Again, probably things you're familiar with. So instead of the default level at 100 and then background level, I set the level to 0. And background now I'm controlling on the outside. So this is our red flashy look. Great. So this is what I want to do. I want to go ahead and record this as a preset, which I've done. I've been playing around with some of this already, you can see. So I'm going to save the current as a preset, and I'm going to just make it half, let's call it half flash, just for funsies. And enter. Half flash has been created, wonderful. All right, so now what I want to do is let's come back out. Let's stop that for now because it's a little much. Let's go and clear. Let's go to our groups. Let's choose the blue half. Now we have the other. We have 7 through 12. Let's go ahead and record. Make sure we're recording an effect, not a group. We're going to call it blue. Again, probably not the best name, but going with the police theme. Done. Let's save it. Let's go into effects. So blue is set up with our standard. But what I'm going to do, just to this, you can do all this manually if you like. This is just to make it easy to make sure you're keeping the time identical. So once you have the red set how you want, or the half bar set how you want, now I'm going to apply that preset I just saved, which is half flash, and say OK. So let's go ahead and play it. So now the other half is flashing red. Now you're like, wait, I don't want it to be red. I don't want both halves to be red. This again is where you could get into, do I want to control everything manually? You can go into the light settings. You can turn off use background on the HSI, on the base CCT, on the intensity, and you can hard code it in there. But if you leave it here, you can come back out to fixture control. And now I see I'm still highlighting 7 through 12, which even if it wasn't, you can go, you've saved it as a group, so it's easy to pick it up again. Blue half, go into fixture controls. You can control each of these cells individually. So let's go into the color, and let's pick out a blue we like. So instead of red, let's say we like there's a nice blue, let's say. And you can also, like, say if it's whiting it out too much, you can obviously bring the intensity down. So now we have a nice blue happening. It's clear, and you can see we are now able to control both with intent. You can control each of them. You control the intensity on each cell if you want, or you can control it on each group if you want, or if you want to just do the overall, which is what I'm going to do. Go back into intensity, bring it down to 0. Let's bring it up to 100. Now, granted, we're not doing the effect yet. I'm sure that's clear. All right, so let's just leave it at maybe like a 26%. Perfect. Let's clear it. Now, let's go ahead and run. Let's go to the effects and let's run both of them. So we got red and blue, but they're not like in sync yet. They're also not going to be in sync. One thing we have to do is let's go back into effects, because I have red and blue right now are identical. So if I were to run this effect and they were to start at exactly the same time, it would be red and blue together, off, red and blue together, off, red and blue together, off, which is not what I want. I want red, blue, red, blue. So on either one, I'm going to take blue. You're able to click and drag by long pressing these 3 lines on the left. I can take, like, let's say step number 2, drag it to the top. Now it's on top. So now red is 0 and then background. Blue is background and then 0, or whatever color I make it from the top. So I think that makes sense. Let's come ahead and come out. Now you're saying, well, how do we make these be in sync with each other? Because they're not quite. I mean, this might be okay. This might be enough of an effect for you, but let's go ahead and stop each of these. Let's go to looks. Let's record a new look. Make sure we're on looks, and let's call it. Let's just call it nothing. Okay. Call it whatever you want. This is. I'm just trying to identify a state where nothing is happening. Let's save it. Now, one thing that's important, because I made the background the controller of this. If I really want it to be nothing, I have to select the entire bar, go to fixture control, let's bring it down. Now let's go ahead and update. We just created the look. We could have done that first. We're going to update the look, current look, update. Cool. Now let's go ahead and bring up the intensity back to whatever we had, 25 or so. And let's go ahead and record another look. And we are on look. I'll call this police. Save it. Now, it is on, but the effects aren't going. So let's see. So red and blue. So obviously these are not in sync. They're just kind of going. I just played it. But if you've used looks before in Blackout, a nice trick is that if you have an effect and you place that effect and you record it into a look, that look is auto triggers it when you go to that look. So it's a nice on-off capability. Create a look that has nothing going on, create a look, or maybe you have a look where a bunch of your fixtures are on, and then you copy that to a new look where all of your fixtures are on, but maybe then there's a cop car element that comes in and the effect is playing in just one of those looks. So you can have everything stay the same, but just have whatever you want come on or off. If that makes sense. So let's go ahead and try updating the look. I'm not sure if that will work. Let's try it. So we are, just make sure, we are at the top. You can see we are in the police look. So let's update the current look. Okay. Now let's try going to looks. Let's go to nothing, turns it off. Police, turns it on. But it didn't work. I've had this happen before. So let's try this. Let's delete the look. Long press the delete. Long press the police look. Let's delete it. Yes, delete. Effects. When I play. Let's bring up the intensity to whatever, 25 or so. And let's go ahead and save this as a look. So we're going to record look. We're going to call this one police. You can see how it's flashing weirdly perfectly in unison, which is odd. Police, done, save. All right, let's go back to nothing. Now let's start police. There you go. Make it quicker, you can make it shorter, you could do 2 pulses, you could do like 2 red, 2 blue, 2 red, 2 blue, as long as the timing makes sense. So if you go back into effects, and the easy thing here with the effects is that we copied it. But either way, you can manually do this too. So just double checking. Blue is total time is 0.5 seconds. Red total time is 0.5 seconds. Its duration is infinite, and you were able to ensure that in your brain, while everything's going on set. because you just copied one from the other and you just reversed the order. Like I said, we made it a quote-unquote kind of smart effect because we're utilizing the color and intensity information that's in the pillbox screen. I'm gonna call it the stage. I don't know if that's the proper term, but on the stage, all of those variables are reachable and it directly impacts the light. So let's go ahead and do that. Because let's say you're on set, you're gonna look, nothing, you hit the police effect, and the DP's telling you like, yeah, we changed lenses, whatever, or hey, that's a little much, or that's not enough. Let's say he's like, that's not enough. All right, fine, no worries. Let's go ahead and select the whole thing, number one. Let's bring the intensity up to 100. All right, cool, now everything's at 100. So one thing to note, and I'm sure this does make sense, is when you're changing parameters, even though it is changing them live, it is kind of resending information, resending commands. So it does kind of drive it out of sync. So whenever I make a change like that, so I brought it down to like 8%, I go ahead and go to looks, and I'll just reset it. Let's go back to nothing, let's go back to police, and that just resets the time. That gets us back in order. The other cool thing about this, as I show you live, you can change the intensity instead of having to go back into the effect and make tweaks and adjustments. You can also screw with the colors. So let's clear this. Let's go to our groups. Let's go to the red half. Let's say, you know what, we don't like red. Let's do like blue and green. Sure. Go to fixture control. Let's go to the color wheel. Try not to accidentally drag it, which I do all the time. We are still set to a saturation 100. So let's just drag it over to green. Now we're doing blue and green. That easy. Go ahead and reset this. Oh, that's one thing. You know what? I just did it to myself and I forgot. So the only issue with this, so I'm changing things on the fly, is that these are baked into looks. So as I go back to nothing, the police look still had the original. So all those changes I made, they just went away. I could have recorded it into a new look. Why don't we go ahead and do that? Let's just change one of them to blue. Let's clear. Let's select groups. Let's do the red half and we'll make it green again. Make that green. All right, and now let's go ahead and record a new look. Let's go ahead into looks and let's just call this blue-green. Blue-green. Let's keep saying the same words over and over again because that's helpful. Let's save it. All right, so now you've captured that. So if you're making a change like that on the fly and you want to save it, you got to record it into a new look, or you'll zap it away just like I just did. So go back to nothing. Go back to police, red and blue. We're like, let's go to the blue-green. And it's all just captured there with looks. Now there's another way to do this, which I think is a little more reliable, especially if you're making changes live. So you're created a look, whatever, nothing or off and then on. And then someone says, hey, can we make that red redder, or can we make it green, or whatever? Can we bring intensity up and down? As that information starts to fire off, it looks like it kind of like staggers some of it, and you can see some of this start to fall out of sync. If you leave it alone, it'll just stay in this back and forth mode. But as you start to throw information at it, it feels like it does start to kind of lose its cadence, which makes sense. So usually, like I said, the way to deal with that is just to, let's go back. I am still recording, great. Is to just go back and just start it again. However, the more reliable, the preferred way to do it, and again, this gets into the power of grouping, and this wasn't something that was terribly clear to me when I first started doing this. That's why I'm sharing this video with you. It probably does exist out there in some form. There's a lot of information out there on Blackout. And Jeff does a great job of breaking it all down, making it make sense to viewers. But this is something I just never quite understood, and maybe it was just by doing it. Again, I'm rambling. Let's go ahead and go back to nothing. So now that we've made our groups, let's go ahead and clear. Let's go back to our groups. We have first half, and whether I've shown this before or not, I'm not sure. So as you step through, and that's by continuing to click on the group name, just one after another, it will show you the order that the selection is. And the order doesn't matter. If you make an effect, you could have these interleaved first, second, instead of first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, it could be first, sixth, second, four, and so on, outside, in, all that kind of stuff. This shows you what the current selection is within that group. So if you make an effect based on that group selection, that's where you're going to get, that's the order of events that's going to happen. That's really a helpful visual clue, for me anyway. And as we showed before, you hit clear. Red half, if you try to click on it over and over, it's just going to show you in the little prompter screen, group 2, fixture 1 through 6. That's the selections. It's just hitting that over and over again. So One thing you can do, since I made 2 different groups, one for each half of the infinibar, and you can select them all. So red half, I'll hit first, blue half. So now I'm representing the entire infinibar, but if I record a new effect, let's just call this one, let's just call it test, just because. Now let's go ahead and save it. Let's double click effects. Now you can see at the top under fixture selection, you got those parentheses, which are telling you fixture 1 through 6, or cell 1 through 6 is one group, cell 7 through 12 is another group, but it's all within one effect. Now without doing anything else, let's just leave it at the default. Let's just hit play and see what happens. Now we're still in the pillbox setting, in the top level, the stage. We're still telling these cells what they are. Earlier in the video we showed I set these to red, these to blue, and you can independently change them. So let's now go ahead and just change, like we did with the 2 separate steps before. Let's set the time, the fade in, fade out to 0. You can go ahead and change the dwells, or you can just go to the overall time, which is 2 seconds now. Change it to maybe 0.5. I think 0.5 was what we had before. So now it's 0.5. You can see it auto changes the dwell on each 0.25, and now we have the same effect. The difference is this is a little bit more reliable because it's driving it through the same effect instead of 2 separate ones. So as you go back out to the stage or the top level, and you start to make those changes. So let's go to, let's clear, let's select the whole infinibar. Let's go to fixture control, and oh, the one thing I don't know if I did mention, so now we did use the default, so now the intensity is controlling the base level. You can see as I brought the intensity up to 50%, now the bar stays at 50% and it just kind of goes, floats on top of it, if that makes sense. So let's make it the same as the other one was. So let's go to effects, we'll stop it for now, go into effects. So let's make it the same. So let's make level 0. And then that way the background is controllable on the outside. So let's go back out, let's hit play. Nothing happens because our intensity is set to 0. Let's go to fixture control, let's start to bring the intensity up. And now we have control like we did before, coming up and down. And same thing before, now we can clear that. Let's go to groups. Let's take the first half, which I think was the red, yeah. Well, the red half. Let's go to fixture control. Let's go to our color wheel. Let's make that green, just for funsies. Same as we did before. So there you go. And you can see it's not like falling out of pattern. You know, it's not starting to get a little stuttery because it's all driving through one effect, I think. I think that makes sense. It makes sense in my head. Does it make sense in your head? Hopefully so, but I think that's logical. And I think it's a cleaner and better way to do it. There may be occasions where you want to split up the effects like we did in the initial review. Or in the initial setup, where then you can just turn off one side easily if you want. So this is, I think, a cleaner way to do it. And obviously, like I said before, or if I did not say before, we are intentionally choosing half and half. There are in this profile, there are 12 pixels or groupings of cells that makes up the pixels. So you can individually control those, but you could also choose a profile that's using all 48. The downside or the con, if it is, depending on your project, is you're using up more channels in the universe, which in some cases might not matter. In other cases, it may matter because you're gobbling up resources, or maybe you only have so many universes, so many channels, etc., etc. But yeah, I'm not going to belabor the point. I think we accomplished what we set out to do, which is to make a multi-cell fixture do what we want. Different colors, adjustable on the fly, live, intensity adjustable on the fly. You don't have to, like I said before, you could go into the effect generator, whatever you want to call it. You could hard code all these things in where they're not adjustable on the fly, where they'll just do it. Because you may not want that. You may not want to go and be changing intensities on something and have it affect an effect. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. These are all options. I'm not going to spell out the entire world to you. I know you don't want me to either, because Tangent Land, it's a seductive place. But, you know, I think it only is interesting to me. And you have probably clicked off to something else by then.